Hello everyone, this is chapter 8 part 3. In this part we will talk about immigrant performance in the United States and labor market assimilation of immigrants. Let's get started. So immigrant performance in the US labor market is really important because we want to know how well the immigrants do in this economy. If they do well and contribute in terms of taxes and economic growth, there's no need to worry. If they enroll in extended periods of time, public assistance programs, and become tax burden, then that's a problem. Okay? So this is not specific to immigrants. We want all our population to not to depend on public assistance programs, right? We want everybody to be self-sufficient. Sometimes it's not possible, but we want to make sure our population, immigrant or native, to be self-sufficient, productive adults paying their taxes. So immigrants who can adapt well and are successful in their new jobs make significant contribution to economic growth. So lots of companies who are founded in the US are by immigrants. So for instance, Steve Jobs, who founded Apple, his father was a foreigner, immigrant. He's an immigrant's child. We have many more. One of the Google's founders is an immigrant. So you see lots of immigrants starting new ideas because this country is very open to new ideas and innovations. Okay, so we will learn that economic impact of immigration depends on the skill composition of the immigrant flow. Do immigrants eventually catch up with the natives, right? Maybe they come here with a disadvantage, language disadvantage, skill mismatch, but maybe they catch up. Do they? We want them to catch up. Okay, so this is the age earnings profile for immigrant profiles for both immigrants and native men. This is a cross section. So we look at different age groups in one point of time. This is, for instance, 1970 census, okay? If you look at recent census, again, if you look at the all age groups of natives and immigrants, you see this age earnings profile. In the y-axis, we have annual earnings, okay? In the x-axis, we have ages, different age groups of people. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to mark, natives are marked using dashed lines. So I'm going to just trace native age earnings profile, natives earnings start, and then peak around 45 or so, then it starts going down. This is the regular age earnings profile. According to this graph, as you can see, immigrants first make less than natives, then around age 35, 34, they catch up and they actually are exceeding natives. So this is very strange. Like, what is going on, right? Really, immigrants exceeding natives? What's going on? So at the end of their time, immigrant men earn about 15% less than the comparable native men. Why? All right. Because maybe they lack skills that are valued in the US labor market. It could be, as I mentioned before, language skills. It could be educational credentials mismatching, and labor market connections. Maybe your network is lacking. And what you see is that immigrant, I'm going to grab a different, let's pick green. Immigrant age earnings profile is steeper. This green one, it's steeper. Look at this, it's steeper. And in 14 years, basically, it looks like in 14 years, immigrants start to earn more than natives, even surpass their earnings, okay? So how is it possible? Are immigrant human capital growing faster than natives? So eventually, right, typical immigrant who has been in the US for 30 years or more earns 10% more than natives. How is that possible? So we are looking at the age earnings profile starting from age 20. So this is very strange, okay? Why would an immigrant end up accumulating more human capital than natives? They not only assimilate to the local labor markets, but they even exceed native earning capabilities. This is really strange. So it could be selection, right? Selection means immigrants are not random sample of the population, right? They are selected, they're more motivated, They're maybe more skilled than their home country. They are risk takers. They're positively, what we call positively selected. They're high skill levels. They're selected from the top of the distribution of the skills from their country. They're bolder. They're braver, right? All these things. Maybe they have higher ability. They're more driven, motivated, ambitious compared to those who stay in their countries. Could be. So again, I like to talk about tale of three sisters. So for instance, I am part of three sister trio. I have two twin sisters. So I am very ambitious, very independent. So I came to US at age 22 to do PhD and then stayed here. I'm here. I have another sister, again, very driven, motivated. She's brave like that, independent. She came to US and got her PhD in economics as well. She's a professor now working in Portugal. We have another sister. She's very motivated, very smart, maybe the smartest of all of us. I think she's smartest because she started her own business. She owns an insurance agency now, the entire agency. So she did. So basically, she's a little bit less adventurous. So we two more driven ones are gone, right? So this is an example of selection. There's a potential issue here because 1970 data is cross-sectional. What does cross-sectional mean? It's a snapshot of immigration population at one point of time. So we assume that people migrate at age 20 or so. 1970 immigrants who are age 20 just entered, right? Age 20 entered in 1970. Those who are age 40 entered 20 years ago, right? Who are age 60 entered 40 years ago when they were 20. 1970 minus 40, 1930 they entered. So if those immigrants arrived in 1930s are different in terms of skills than those who arrived in 1970s, assimilationist interpretation is wrong. So maybe immigrants do really well, catch up, but how are they exceeding locals? All of them. So let's take a look at cohort effects and immigrant age earnings profile again. So this is counter argument for the result. What if, this is a question, what if all cohorts are different in terms of skills? Each immigrant cohort is getting less and less skilled. What if this is the case? So you look at the 2000 cross-section data. Everybody, let's say we are looking at the 2000 cross-section data. Everybody arrived at age, we are assuming they arrived at age 20. So this is, let's say, earnings. I'm just drawing a graph right now. This is the dollars earnings, and this is the age group. So I'm going to grab 20, 40, 60. So imagine that immigrants arrived in 1960, right? They arrived at 1960 at age 20, have the highest skill level. So we can draw, let's say, their age earnings profile as PP. Okay, P is their age earnings profile. This is 1960 people. So they are observed when they are, if we are in year 2000, how long has it been since 1960? 40 years. They entered in 1960 when they were 20 years old, 20 plus 40, they are observed at age 60 in year 2000. So this is the 2000 graph. I'm just demonstrating. Those, let's say those arrived in 1980 has same skills as natives and which is lower than 1960 cohort. So people who arrived in 1980 have lower skills. Lower skills means they are actually starting with lower wages. QQ is their graph. And you know, their wages go up, earnings go up as they age. Okay? And then those arrived in 2000 are very unskilled, even less than 1980 group. So RR is their age earnings profile. So how do we observe them, right? 2000 wave, this is the 2000 data. They're now 20 years old. We observe them here. R star is when they're observed. Okay, so 40-year-olds in my sample come from here, those who entered in 1980, because they were 20 years old when they're 1980. In year 2000, add 20 years to this, they're now 40 years old. So I see them here, this point. And finally, 1960 wave, they came to this country at age 20 in 1960. In 2000, 40 years later, they are 20 plus 40, they're 60 years old. I observe them right here when they're 60 years old. So if you are looking at cross-sectional data, right, this is my natives group, same as the 1980 cohort. Look at this. If you look at cross-section data, you're observing 20-year-olds come from 2000 wave, least skilled. 40-year-olds come from the 1980s wave, similar to natives. And 60-year-olds entered this country in 1960s, they're observed here. So you have now CC is the age earnings profile you are seeing in the cross-sectional data. And this is your natives QQ. It looks like this shape, right? It's what we get. So this is one explanation. So this is why you see these immigrants having steeper age earnings profile. So the cross-sectional age earnings profile erroneously suggests that immigrant earnings grow faster than those natives. So at R star, I'm just repeating it, wages of those who just arrived in 2000, they're at age 20, they entered in age 20, they're now 20 years of age. At point Q star, we are observing wages of those who arrived in 1980 at age 20. In year 2000, they are now 40 years old. At point P, P star, we are observing the wages of those who arrived in 1960 at age 20. Now they are 60 years old at year 20. So cross-sectional age earnings profile again mistakenly suggests that immigrant earnings grow faster. So CC grows faster than QQ. Okay, CC line is due to the differences in skills of migrant crowds and cohorts. CC is due to the differences in skills of immigrant cohorts. What do you mean by cohorts? Different waves of immigrants. Year 2000 who arrived at age 20. Year 1980 cohort. Year 1960 cohort. Conclusion. So we have both cohort effect, immigrant skill getting lower and lower, and also immigrant assimilation is present as well. That's why immigrant age earnings profiles are upward sloping for each cohort. Immigrants do assimilate, we learn language, we earn the skills that are valuable here. And most recent cohorts of immigrants have lower skills. Okay? So this is actually different cohorts. So this is when they were observed, the people when they enter and as they age. Okay? So this is evolution of wages for specific immigrant cohorts or life cycles. So these guys arrived between 1965 to 69. This is log wage gap. Okay, so it shows you how much less in terms of percentage they're making than the native workers. So for instance, if you look at the 1965-69 cohort, they were making about 23% less, 0.2.3 negative number, logarithm means 23% less than natives. But this gap closes by the time they are in 2000, which takes about 30 years, right? Those who arrived in 75, 79, okay, they're actually make much less than native workers, less than 30% when they arrived, make than their native counterparts. They do grow, their incomes do grow, but still after so many years, after 30 years, they are still making less than 10%, a little bit more than 10%, I apologize. Those who arrived 85, 89, they make about 34% less than natives. They kind of try to recover. Arrived in 1995, 99, they're kind of doing a little bit better. Okay? So this is the wage differential between immigrants and native men at the time of entry. Okay, so these are a bunch of 20-year-olds. We are looking at their time of entry. Those who entered 55, 59 made, what is that? 11, 12, 13% less than the natives. Look at those who entered 85, 89. They're making almost less than 40%. So there's a huge skill differences in immigrant cohorts, okay? Those arrived in 1960 earned 11% less than natives. Those arrived in 1990, 2000 earned 37, 31% less than natives. That's a lot. Why are we getting immigrants that are who are less skilled over time? This is the changing immigration policies in the United States. Back in the days in the US, we had more skill-based immigration. Today, we are doing more family-based immigration. Okay? So I will see you in next part, in part 4, where we'll talk about changing immigration policies in the United States. I'll see you then. Take care. Bye.